Hi, everybody. We are at the top of the hour. Going to get started in just a minute. There are a couple people still joining and getting things set up. So I'm going to put you back on pause for 1 second. We'll get going here in just a minute. All right. Looks like we are good to go. Real quick, if you could do me a favor, though, just to make sure that I've got everything set up on my end, if you could go into the comment section and the question section and just let me know that you can see the slide and that you can hear me talking. If you do that for me before we get started, I would sure appreciate it. All right. Looks like we're set up and ready to go. Okay. So hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, The Human Element of Cybersecurity. We have a lot to cover today, and I want to be mindful of your time and keep it relatively short. So I'm going to give you a quick introduction. But I want to start by saying that there is a very real problem that's putting us all at risk right now, and it's just simply not being addressed. So my promise to you is that if you'll stay to the end of this presentation today, I will show you how to use some free tools to protect your organization from a threat that's just getting worse. Now, for a quick introduction about me, my name is Justin Shelley. I am the founder of Master Computing. We're an IT consulting firm that specializes in cybersecurity. I've been working with computers, technology, and cybersecurity in one way or another for just over 20 years, I guess almost 21 years now. My firm works specifically with medical practices, law offices, and other small businesses in general throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth area. When I first got into the technology business, life was pretty simple back then. I basically fixed broken computers, and that was about it. The game has completely changed since then. I find myself fighting crime rings in Russia, and not exaggerating. I don't literally come face to face with these guys, of course, but I not only see firsthand the aftermath of the destruction that they wreak, but I do on occasion have to engage in kind of a virtual hand-to-hand combat as we try to outwit each other. I gotta say, it's a little unnerving. Today's webinar is about the human element of cybersecurity, and your employees are unknowingly destroying your business and may get you thrown into jail. What we can do about that. So let's talk about this jail statement that I've made. First of all, if somebody breaks into your office, steals money, steals equipment, takes your supplies, the law enforcement is going to go after them, the criminals. But the weird thing is that if somebody breaks into your computers and steals your data, law enforcement comes after you. There is legislation being introduced right now that includes jail time for the victims of cybercrime. Now tell me how that's fair. I have no idea, but regardless, it's the world that we're living in. So real quick, I'm going to tell you why I'm passionate about this subject, this topic of cybercrime. And first of all, it's just because of what I said a minute ago. It's simply unfair that the victims, us, the owners of businesses, the administrators of medical practices, we're the ones that are punished. And I have a problem with that. The other thing is, and this is a little bit more personal, this happened under my watch. I don't even like to admit this, but once, and it was several years ago, we had an insurance company, I'll just call them ABC Insurance Company, that was breached. I don't know if you're familiar with this slide that I've got up here, that screen, that's one of many different variants of ransomware. Not necessarily the one that they had, but we got a call on a Friday afternoon. Of course, it's always on a Friday afternoon, and they said, hey, the server has been encrypted. We checked things out. Sure enough, they had a version of ransomware. Now, fortunately, we had a really solid backup system in place. We weren't really worried about it. It was our first time that we'd really been confronted with something to this level. But again, we had the backup in place. We weren't worried about it. And so we told the owner of the insurance company that we had two choices. We could come over right then. It was coming up on the end of the day. So if we worked on it over the weekend, it was going to cost them some after hours labor. Or we could come in Monday morning and they might be down for a couple hours because we would restore their server from backup and get them back up and running. So that's what we opted to do. We agreed that we'd come in Monday morning and that we would just quickly restore from backup and get them back up and going, which we did, by the way. We had their server, we had to wipe the hard drive, we restored everything from backup, it went smoothly. We left feeling pretty good about ourselves, and within a couple of hours, this company called us back again and said, hey, it's happened again. So that wasn't, of course, what we wanted to hear. Went back out, repeated the procedure again, and the same outcome. Every time we would restore them from backup, they would get infected again. And what it turned out to be is that the backups themselves had become infected. The server had the encryption software on it for quite a period of time, and we didn't know about it. And so we were just backing up corrupted software, infected software, whatever you want to call it. So it was just a nightmare come true as far as technology goes. The long story short is that it ended up taking us approximately 3 weeks to get this client back up to where they needed to be. And what we had to do is go to every computer on the network and completely erase and format the hard drive, reinstall all of the software, and then restore only the data from backup. When we were restoring from backup before, we were doing what's called an image backup restore, which is it's like a snapshot of the hard drive, and that was bringing the infected software back onto the machine. So we had to reinstall clean software, reinstall data only, and it was just a nightmare. So it was a nightmare for us. We lost a ton of time working with this client on it, and of course, I'm being selfish even saying that because the downtime for this client was crippling and very embarrassing. They had to explain to their customers why they couldn't process quotes, claims, whatever. It was just a disaster. So when that happened, I swore to myself that it would never happen again under my watch. And so that's part of why we're here today. As I have continued, that was several years ago, and I've just continued to look for ways to improve the offering that we use to protect our clients with. Now, the real tragedy about that story is that it was completely preventable. And in fact, 97% of the breaches that you read about or hear about on the news could have been prevented with the right technology, with careful maintenance, and with proper user training. This experience made one thing very clear to me. I had to up my game, and I did. So if you're a client of ours already, you have the best technology available for preventing cybercrime. But today we're not talking about technology. We're here to talk about the technology user. Now, here's the thing about the IT industry. Generally speaking, we are great at technology, but not so great with people. We like to work on machines, we like to work on electronics, we like to write code, we like to fix software glitches, but very few IT consultants address or even acknowledge the problem with user security training. Now, one little side note to that, I'm a member of a group of IT consultants, kind of a peer network group, and I interface with a lot of other IT business owners. And so I will say in fairness that it is something that's on our minds in the industry, but very few of us really take the time to dig in and figure out how to solve this problem. We'll present it to a customer, and they don't want to hear it, quite frankly. So, this begs the question of why is it that, it's one thing that we as IT consultants aren't really great with people. We'd rather work on technology. That's our excuse. The excuse that I get from business owners or administrators when I'm out trying to talk about this topic to them is, we'll hear things like, well, everything's in the cloud, so we don't need to worry about security. Or they'll say it's too expensive. And in fairness, there is no return on investment for security measures. It kind of stinks, honestly. The other thing we hear is it won't happen to me. I was working with, hoping to work with a prospective client, medical practice, doctor, owner. He also did his own IT work. The guy did everything. I don't know how he tried to do any of it, but he did. And when I talked to him about this type of stuff, he just would look at me and say, I'm not interested. I don't care. We're too small of a practice, and it won't happen to us. We're not on the radar. So I couldn't even get him to talk to me about security at all, whether that was his technology or the training of the users. The other thing that we run into is that it's a huge time commitment, or it can be, and people have enough on their plates, and so they don't do it. They don't want to add one more thing to their day. And then there's going to be some employee resistance. There's some training that needs to happen, and nobody wants to sit down and do the training, so that can be a pain point. I'll say that the number one reason that it's hard for me as I'm out trying to sell any type of technology or security services is that our society, we're kind of in a state of overwhelm. We hear all day long the things that we should do to protect our businesses. But the reality is we can't possibly take every precaution, every suggestion that's given to us. So we end up in this state of overwhelm, which then puts us into a state of apathy. And this state of apathy is exactly why we get breached. And it's why I can say that 97% of breaches could have been prevented. Because if we'll do some of these things, put them into place, we absolutely can prevent it. So what's the answer? The simple answer is to not be the low-hanging fruit. It's true that we can't do everything, but the good news is we don't have to. We just have to put some basic things in place so that we really don't walk around with a target on our back. The insurance company that I was referring to absolutely was low-hanging fruit, and I don't like to admit it because it was on my watch. Like I said, they had out-of-date software, they had out-of-date computers, out-of-date firewall. The big problem there was that they had a huge resistance to upgrading. They didn't want to buy new computers, they didn't want to update their software because it was expensive. And because I'm kind of soft when it comes to that, honestly, I didn't push them like I should have. So that was the situation there. They were just low-hanging fruit. Now I want to tell a quick story. I used to work way back when. I used to work for Loomis Armored. I think they're just called Loomis now, but it's the armored car company. Pack money around. I got to carry a gun. It was an exciting job to have as I was like 20, 21 years old, 21, I think. I loved that I got to carry a gun. Now, with carrying that gun, I also had to go to training of proper use for the gun, when we could use it, when we could not use it. And in that training, the thing that stuck with me more than anything else, well, there were two things that really stuck with me. One was, if we got robbed, we were instructed to give them the money as fast as we could. Our gun was not to be used to protect the money. It absolutely was not. The other thing that stood out to me was, and it stood out because I hated it, but what we were taught was we had the only thing that we could do, we could not prevent robberies from happening. The only thing that we could do was try to make it happen to somebody else. And I hated that because I didn't want it to happen to somebody else either. I couldn't stand the thought of, my best defense was to make somebody else get robbed instead of myself. But that is actually what we were taught. And that's kind of what we're talking about here today. We aren't going to stop cybercrime. It's just not going to happen. Our best defense is to get the target off of our own backs, to take some simple steps to protecting our own self, our own technology, our own people, so that when cybercrime does happen, it's not us making the 5 o'clock news. So what now? Again, there's two components that we have to protect. It's the technology itself and the maintenance, like we mentioned before, and the people. And we aren't talking about technology today, but if you need help with this one, we're also happy to help there. Today, we're focusing on the people. And so here's what you need to properly protect your people. We need the documented policies and procedures. They've got to be in place. They have to be customized for our organization. They have to clearly state what is allowed and what's not allowed, what we do in the case of a data breach, what we do in the case of a disaster of any sort. We've got to have it all documented. That's one step. But honestly, probably the more painful part of it is that we have to have training for our new employees as we bring them in and hire, as we hire people. We'd also have to figure out a way to train our existing people, which are way more likely to resist this process. So we've got to let them know what's in these policies and procedures that we've taken the time to put in place. We have to train our new employees as well as our existing employees on just general security awareness. We need regular refresher training because we can train them once and that's fine. But as time goes on, of course, we forget, we get lax. I don't want to say lazy, but we don't think about it all day long. So we become, the longer we get away from the initial training, the more likely we are to put that target right back on our backs. And then another important key to this is a security skill assessment that we do on a regular basis, or that should be done on a regular basis. And what we want to do here is find the weak links within our team of employees. Who is it that was properly trained? Who missed some key points? Who can be tricked through fake phishing emails that we send out? So we want to regularly test the skills of those that we've trained. So I say this, and then I want to ask the rhetorical question of, does this sound exciting to anybody? And I'm going to guess that that's a big no. And here's the thing, I get it. It's not exciting. This is one more thing that we have to do, and we're already overworked and overwhelmed. So the point I want to make is that this isn't going to happen overnight. And what I'm asking from each of you here today is that you will promise me that you will take one action in the next 7 days. Just one very small action. In a minute, I'm going to talk about the free resources that we're giving away. One of them is an online portal for user training. And so what I'm asking you to promise me is that you will log into that portal within the next 7 days. That's it, just log in. You don't have to do anything else. Just take that one step to log in, because I'm trying to find, a really easy way that we can get this ball rolling. And then from there, we have some, different levels of coaching set up that goes for the course of 12 years. And because not only do I want to give you the free resources, but I want to make sure that these get used and implemented. We've been actually, we've been giving these resources or offering them in our IT firm for several years now. 2 years at least. I'd have to go back and look, but it's really hard to get people to take action on this. And so that's kind of the point of this whole series of webinars and seminars that we're doing, is to help people take action and get this implemented. So we have 12 months of free coaching. Again, different levels of coaching. The free one is really just email reminders and email questions and answers. But that's what I'm asking. Take that one step of logging into the portal, and then we'll kind of help you from there. So I want to take a minute and tell you about my worst nightmare. This is a story that, another one that I don't really like to tell. When I tell stories, they're usually about things that I've done wrong. I live in a 2-story home. This happened, it was several years ago. I don't remember how many years ago, but in the middle of the night, it was probably about 2 o'clock in the morning, if I remember correctly, the fire alarms went off in my home. Now at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're not at your best. You don't really know what's going on. I especially didn't know what was going on. I just knew the fire alarms throughout the entire house were blaring, and they were loud, and I was terrified. And so I jumped out of bed, and I just started running through the house. I was trying to figure out if there was a fire, and if there was a fire, where was it? I wanted to check on all my kids. I wanted to get them up, get them out of the house if that was what we needed to do. And again, I'm half asleep, and I could tell you that I was more afraid in this moment than I think I ever have been in my life. And as I ran out of my bedroom, the way our house is set up is that the stairs, we all sleep upstairs. As I ran out of my bedroom, I passed the staircase, and I just had this sickening thought of, if there's a fire and it's downstairs and it's anywhere close to this stairwell, none of us are getting out. That was the only way out of the house. Now, we could jump out the windows, we could hope that we only broke legs or whatever else, but when you're talking about trying to get your kids out of a house, anyways, that was just the most terrifying thought that I had. Now, the outcome is great because it was a false alarm, there was no fire, but that thought has haunted me ever since. Now, you can bet that today I have ropes, I have rope ladders, fire escape rope ladders or whatever, in every single bedroom in my house on the upstairs floor. So, but the reason I'm telling you this story is because it took me living through that terrifying event before I took action. And my entire purpose of being here on this webinar today with you is to hopefully get you to take action before having any sort of a terrifying event, such as you walk in one morning and your server's encrypted, and you have ransom notes from the cyber thugs telling you that if you don't pay up, you'll never see your files again, or worse, what they'll do sometimes is say, hey, if you don't pay the ransom, we've already exported all of your data, all of your patient records, all of your client records. We have those, and we're going to make them available for sale or whatever. It's various versions of extortion, but it's getting worse and worse the way that they go after us. So I'm telling this story about the fire because, again, I want to prevent anybody from having to go through any kind of a real life event or a fearful, near miss kind of event. But I want to help everybody start taking action right now. What I'm asking you not to do is this. Whatever you do, don't do nothing. So on to what I have to offer today. And I mentioned that we have a free cybersecurity toolkit. This is specific to the HR process. Depending on the size of your organization, you might be the HR department as well as the everything else department. I get that. We all wear a lot of hats. You might be the HR person. You might have an HR team. That's not the point. This kit it's not about who it's for, but about what it's for. And I call it an HR toolkit because I would like to get people in the habit of training their staff as they're hired and making it a process where we do, whether it's quarterly reviews or annual performance reviews or whatever we do with our staff, to add this into that process. Because if we don't build a habit around this, we're just going to be having the same conversation a month or 2 months or a year later, or worse, we're going to be having the conversation of when somebody got breached and how are we going to try to recover from it. So again, the key here is that we start to build habits and we build it into systems and processes within our organization. So what we're giving away for free today is a tabbed binder with hard copy printouts of policies and procedures. And this is everything from employment agreements to bring your own device policies. We have acceptable use policies for dictating how employees can and cannot use technology. For example, are they allowed to check their personal email from their work computer is one example. It's just all of the policies that we want implemented in our individual businesses. This is a template to get started. Now, this is the free version, and that is all it is a paper template. You do need to go through then and write your own policies and procedures, and you can take out this stuff. This book is really thick. There's hundreds of pages of templates in there. It's a great place to get started, but it's just that. You would then want to use those as kind of a rough draft and build your own policies. And the tab binder, it's a nice binder. It has your company name on the spine of it. It's a really nice binder. So this isn't just a cheap, flimsy thing that we're giving you. Then it also comes with unlimited access to a security awareness training portal. You can use this for all of your employees. We really encourage you to do so. And again, what I would tell people is to make it part of the HR process. When somebody comes on board, there's always paperwork to do. There's training that you're already putting them through. We just include this in the training. It's not a lot of training. It can be done in a relatively short amount of time. When they're done, there's a short test and they can print off a certificate, and then that goes in their HR folder, their employee file. So there's access to that, completely free. And then, as I mentioned before, 12 months of email-based coaching just to keep you on track and to answer any questions that might come up along the way. And I don't know that it will take 12 months to get everything in place and start going, but I just want to keep track of everybody. I want to be a resource to everybody for at least 12 months while implementing this. So again, this is all completely free of charge. I have the value, $1,750. It's, like any free offer, right? We're going to perhaps inflate the value. Maybe that's an inflated value, but we are putting real money into this. My organization is putting real money into this as we're buying really nice engraved binders that we're giving you. My employees are printing off these documents, these template documents. They're tabbing them for you. There's a table of contents. All of that is put together for you for free, and I'm paying people to do that. So I want to emphasize that this isn't just nonsense I'm giving you here. It is a very real resource. The portal, the online portal, that software that we pay for in-house, and we are making it available free to our anybody in the Dallas area. Really, I'm kind of on a crusade to properly train the local businesses. And then again, the email training, the coaching that goes along with it, that is my time. You've got full access to me via email to ask whatever questions you want. And then on a monthly basis, there will be instructions that come out through email of, this month we're going to focus on, let's say, the acceptable use policy, and here's some tips and tricks on how to do it. And I'm actually working on getting a local attorney, an HR attorney, involved in working with me on this part. So it's not official yet, so I can't say his name or anything else, but whether it's him or somebody else, in the coming weeks and months, we'll be adding an attorney into the mix so that we have even a better offer to give out. So that one's completely free. Now, of course, we are in business to make money. We do have some other options. And all I'm going to say before I switch slides here is that if you have the time and resources to do this on your own, I do not want to minimize how important it is to take this free offer and run with it. You have my blessing. Please do. If, like many of us, time is not available, shall we say, then we have kind of more of a hands-on guided DIY training. It's still, you're doing it yourself, but we're more involved in the process. So if we were to add everything up, the time that we take to put into this, I really legitimately could sell this for thousands of dollars. My best estimate is at $7,250. I mean, it's subjective. I'll be honest. That's fine. That's not my point. What we will charge for this is $500 up front, because there's going to be some hands-on help to get everything up and running, and then it's $179 a month. And what you get for this is a free toolkit that we just talked about, everything that was on the previous slide. You get now electronic document templates reviewed by a Texas attorney. So at this point, if you're willing to pay a little bit to help offset these legal fees, we will make available documents that have been reviewed by an attorney, and they're electronic format, so that you're not having to type out your stuff. The printout, you're really starting from scratch. You have to type your own documents. But this one is an electronic one that you can just edit and make a few changes. Really, you could do a find and replace and put your company name in, and you're good to go if you like the document the way it is. So huge time saving if you go this route, just having these electronic document templates. And again, the fact that they're reviewed by a Texas attorney is huge as well, because when I first showed the guy that I'm working with or hoping to work with, when I showed him what I was giving people, within minutes, he was picking it apart, saying, well, that doesn't work in Texas, that doesn't work in Texas. So that's a key part of this as well. Along with this one, we have weekly micro training just to keep it front of mind for everybody. and we have monthly live training webinars where more than just getting an email once a month, you'll be on a webinar similar to this, but more interactive, where we'll be, again, picking a document, whether it's the acceptable use policy or any number of the other documents we're giving you, and going through them live. Not one-on-one necessarily, but there's going to be a small group on these webinars so that there can be discussion, there can be Q&A, and I'm also working to get this attorney or another attorney online with us on a monthly basis so you can ask questions and make sure that it all works in this great state of Texas. Also here with this level of service, you get simulated phishing attacks where we will send emails to your employees to see if they have really learned from the training. You know, are they going to get tricked by a fake email, or will they be able to sniff it out and respond that, you know, this was a fake attack. Kind of combined with that, it's an employee vulnerability assessment where we rate and score the employees on how well they picked out the fake emails versus real emails. We will be doing an annual security risk assessment. This is a DIY as well. It's documented, all the policy or the procedure is in place. It's kind of like a checklist, I guess, where you would follow that and do your own internal security risk assessment. There is dark web breach assessments involved in this one, and then we'll have an annual live security training event that you'll get a free ticket to, and that's just in person. It's not, you know, everything else on here, a lot of it's just web-based, and it's hard to get people to do web-based training. So with our live event, we'll rent out a venue of sorts, and we'll do you know, live classes where we can do more question and answers and stuff like that. So this is what you get for the guided DIY, and it's the one that I really would recommend. That like I said, unless you have a ton of time to do everything yourself, this is by far the best value for what you know, what you get versus what you pay. The next one, this is kind of the red carpet treatment, really designed for larger organizations. Gets everything that we've already talked about, the toolkit, the guided DIY service, but in this case, we're going to take your policies and procedures and we're going to build them for you. You don't necessarily have to be on the webinars if you don't want to, asking questions and customizing your own documents, but we'll come in and interview, you know, talk to you about what it is you want, what you need, what makes sense for your organization, what doesn't. We'll take those back, we'll get them reviewed by an attorney. We'll do one-on-one in-office training as far as getting the portal set up. We will do real-time monitoring and remediation for the dark web breach assessments, simulated phishing attacks, but where you have access to do them on your own with the lower level of service. This one, they're scheduled, they're managed, and they're reported on by our staff here. And then finally, the annual live security training. Instead of being a group event, this one will be done at your office. Now, this level of service, like I said, it's for larger organizations. It's more expensive, $2,000 setup. But by the way, just if the customizing of the documents alone is worth that $2,000. But then the $692 a month is for all of the other services that come along with this. So that's what we have to offer. We're 35 minutes past the hour, which is about, I was trying to keep this pretty close to a half an hour. The next step, and now if you guys have any questions, feel free to punch them into the questions box. I don't know that we need to spend a ton of time there, but again, if you do have questions, throw them out there. The next step is just keep an eye on your inbox, because I will be sending out a sheet, just a flyer to everybody on the session, on this webinar today, that talks about these three different options. I don't want to make you make a decision right now because I kind of went through them pretty quick, but I'll put it in a product matrix where you can see the comparison side by side. And if you'll respond to me, you know, hopefully within the next day or two, of which version you want, please at least take the free one, by the way. Please at least take the free offer. But if you'll get back to me in the next couple of days of which version you want to go with, we'll get that set up. And then I'm just going to say one more time, log into the portal within the next 7 days. That's the only thing that I'm asking from you. And with that, I think I don't see any questions coming in, and that's absolutely fine. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up, but keep an eye on your inbox, and let me know which way you'd like to go and how we can be of best service to you. Thank you for being on the webinar today. I appreciate it, and we will talk to you soon.